Hello, everyone. Everyone get seated, that'd be great. Thank you all for coming. I know at least a handful of you here, based on my LinkedIn inbox, is just here to sell me something after the session, but I still appreciate you showing up. My name is Maarten Peschier. I'm the VP of Engineering for Kantar, focused on data and analytics. I've been in the data space for over 17 years, really focused on scalable data practices through data governance and data management. I'm joined here today by Lakshmi, who represents EPAM and the great team that has helped us through some of our transformation journeys.
Thank you so much, Maarten. And I am Lakshmi Jagannathan. I'm a data solution architect, and I currently lead the Databricks Center of Excellence at EPAM. I'm passionate about data and analytics. Who is not nowadays, right? Everyone is. But I'm genuinely passionate about data and analytics, and I'm quite excited to be here, especially in this space when most of the organizations are redefining their data strategy for the future data revolution. And yeah, I gave myself a challenge not to say the word AI in my introduction, and I think I did pretty well.
It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Just to give you a bit of context about Kantar, you might have seen us in the news recently. Every single year, we publish a report called Brand Z, where we look at the most valuable brands in the world. If you haven't seen it, still, spoiler alert, it is still Apple. But at Kantar, we really believe in the power of brand. It delivers incredible value and sustainable growth by strengthening connections with consumers. And to help brands really harness that power, we start with understanding people everywhere. We've built one of the largest research-ready panels in the world, and our research really represents over 75% of the global population. We have a rich history at Kantar. Some of that comes through how this company started. Really, we were a collection of independent market research companies under the WPP umbrella. In recent years, we've been acquired by Bain Capital, and through that acquisition, we've been going on a transformation journey. And to support us in some of those projects, we enlisted the help of EPAM.
Thank you. And a little bit about EPAM. Founded in 1993 by two grad school friends out of their Princeton apartment, EPAM is now a leading global digital transformations provider, and we lead the industry in delivering some of the complex data and AI platforms. I don't want to read out the numbers on the slide, but it will give you how much impact EPAM can create globally with our experienced bunch of engineers. So we are a Databricks elite partner. We are their preferred migration partner as well. We do have a dedicated Databricks Center of Excellence. We have an extremely talented bunch of solution architect champions who can help our customers with any of their data problems. That's a bit about EPAM, but before we move on, we were reflecting on some thoughts yesterday, Maarten and I. The last 1.5 to 2 years has been definitely a challenging journey. We've had a fair bit of challenges, but which Maarten will talk about in a few of his slides
Absolutely.
as well. But I think the key success to this partnership is the fact that we set some guardrails and frameworks upfront, and this laid the path for all the data teams, both EPAM and Kantar, who are working globally, distributed across different time zones to work towards the same outcome that we wanted to achieve. So what do you think, Maarten?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is great to have a partner like EPAM who has worked with some of their clients on a similar transformation journey. So you get to learn from all of the mistakes that have been made in the past. But for us, it was really important when we thought about our transformation journey to kind of center it around these core principles. So one of the core principles that we had, that as a company that has come together through multiple acquisitions, and any large company will have the same problem, is that data assets, data capabilities, data infrastructure proliferates. So we wanted to make sure that we could simplify our estate, and the way we did that was through the creation of a data maturity model. So a data maturity model is really helps us understand what capabilities and services are we looking to implement for our future vision, and it allows you to grade what you have within your organization, whether it's pockets of operational or engineering excellence, and see if there's an enterprise fit. The other thing that really aligned with our enterprise strategy, enterprise architecture strategy, was to unify our capabilities. If you come from acquisitions, you're going to have a lot of places that are doing the same things over and over. And we want to make sure that we pick the best ones and move those forward. And it's a pretty ruthless exercise. You're going to find capabilities that have been built by excellent engineering teams, but do not have an enterprise fit. And what we really wanted to do was build components that we can reuse multiple times. And one of the things I think we liked about the EPAM pitch was the data factory framework that you guys presented. Maybe you want to tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, why not? A bit of self-publicity. But then, yes, in EPAM, we have gathered all our experiences which we have come across with our customers. And we put together this framework, which is called the Data Factory Framework, not to be confused with Azure Data Factory Services at all. It's based on 4 key pillars, right? Your strong technology foundation, which is underpinned by your proper operating model. You have a data strategy that is in sync with your business strategy. Most often during these transformations, the organizations find it very stressful, not just because of bad technology choices, but also because that your data strategy is probably not in sync with your business outcomes that you want. And to unlock value, you also need to have a proper operating model that supports this use case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other principles that we really looked at, and I laughed a little bit about that, is a creative engineering mindset. I think if you're bringing new engineers to any type of kind of transformation journey, and they get to look at some of the capabilities you already have, they're going to look at that implementation and say, yeah, we should probably throw it away, right?
Definitely.
I think that's just kind of the mindset that engineers tend to have. So we really want to look at how do we leverage some of the capabilities that have already been built and find creative solutions to make sure that we can utilize those, or where there's not a fit, we can build new ones. And last but not least, it is important through any technology transformation journey that you do not forget the company that you are, the kind of the core, the purpose of your business. So it was not about changing our expertise, it was about supercharging our expertise with some of the new technology that is available. To do any transformation, I would say no company is going to want to wait for 3 years to get the results of your beautiful program. Not every business is going to get excited about technology maturity uplift. So we wanted to make sure that we could get something that had immediate value. And what gets a business more excited than building a new product?
Of course.
So we decided to latch on to the development of a new product called Brand Now to help us really build the enterprise capabilities together with EPAM.
And it's a super brilliant product that we have built together. So.
If we do say so ourselves, yeah. So Brand Now, and I promise the marketing speak is going to be over soon. Brand Now is really about brand equity tracking. And if you know anything about the market research space, if you know anything about Kantar, brand equity tracking is our bread and butter. We've been doing it for decades. But the model for Brand Now is different. In a traditional way of market research, you work with a client, you create a bespoke data set basically to answer the question that they have, tailor it towards their needs. Brand Now is different because it is a data set created by Kantar, governed by Kantar. We own the asset, so we want to make sure that we get the most use out of it. So it's really about applying the right governance to that data set. It is at a global scale. It runs in multiple markets. It uses some of our latest, I'm not going to say the word we're not supposed to say, but advanced analytics.
Yeah.
It also is interesting that you know, when you work within the brand equity space for a long time, and if you work in the market research space for a long time, you tend to work with specific software and specific tools. And I know there's at least one person in the audience here, and he's already smiling, that knows what I'm talking about. Tools like SPSS, like SAS, like Dimensions, fantastic tools, very niche audience, and if you work with them for as long as we have, you become a ninja in using them. You create that operational excellence. But for this product, we really want to start with an open foundation. So how can we create a data set that lives on an open source platform through open formats, and embracing some of the new things that have come out of the data engineering technology space in the last decade. So yeah, that really kind of sums up the challenges that we had, with the exception, and the biggest one probably being that we had to launch this product, as part of the Brand Z launch, which gave it a very aggressive timeline. But I think with the help of EPAM, we devised a platform and an infrastructure that helped us kind of stop those challenges from being an issue.
I think aggressive is an understatement. It was quite aggressive, yes. So you've heard the challenges from Maarten, and we set out not just to solve the existing challenges that we had identified at the beginning of the journey, but we also wanted to lay a solid foundation for any future use cases that Kantar might want to have, right? Dale Williamson, the field CTO, in one of the sessions said, AI without your data is just maths. So it stuck on to me because that's what we were going to do. So we wanted to bring data into this unified data platform. And I think Lakehouse, Databricks Lakehouse was the unanimous choice there. Kantar were Azure first already. So we used Microsoft Azure for the storage layer. We were bringing in a lot of data from various different data sources. So what we didn't want to do is, after bringing the data into the Lakehouse, people interpreting this data in a different manner. So what we built along with Kantar is a common language for all the entities that we wanted to bring in for the insights, and we named it the Common Data Model. Basically, Common Data Model not only gave us the stability for the Lakehouse, but it also helped us put in proper data governance in place for the Lakehouse using a common language that we speak. So I think you will want to say a few more things about Common Data Model at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to get that too in a later slide.
And not to forget, the last thing that we enabled, which was key, was the exploratory environments that we wanted to enable the users with, exploiting Databricks SQL, and Maarten is a fan. So
yeah, I am. I think in a lot of companies, and I'm sure this has been talked about in many sessions, the data moves to where the data scientist is or where analysts are. What we wanted to do was make sure that we could have the data scientists move to the place where we actually have our storage. So with the help of Databricks notebooks, we can support our hardcore Python developers and data scientists. But through SQL, you also get to support a lot of the more traditional analyst personas that throughout the years have used SQL in the past. So it was really a great combination for us.
I think we used Purview as our governance tool, with Unity helping us capture the lineage for the Databricks workloads. In this slide specifically, this is nothing but a glorified Medallion architecture. But what we wanted to bring out is the fact that you have to tweak your Medallion architecture based on your use cases. And what we did in our case is, as I said, we set some guardrails and guidances on how data wants to move through the flow. If you see on the left-hand side is the curated and the raw data zone, which are responsible for bringing data from multiple data sources in various different formats. And on the right-hand side is the serving layer if an application is not able to plug on to Delta directly. In the middle is the curated and the transform zone, which is at the heart of the Lakehouse that we have built for Kantar. Curated zone helped us to put in all the data quality checks that we wanted to do, that we identified as part of data governance. And the transform data zone is where we serve the common data model to all workloads across the enterprise. And
yeah, I think we mentioned common data models before. One of the key things in the collaboration with EPAM was, how do you get that domain-specific expertise? Market research is not something that's taught in schools.
Yeah.
So creating a domain-specific common data model helped us create the language together. And I think that was really beneficial, especially early on, in making sure that we all spoke the same language.
So this is not something new, and you would have heard about it all through the sessions, but we wanted to actually give you a flavor of why Databricks worked for us in the use case that we worked with Kantar. So as Maarten said, they wanted to move away from proprietary formats. They wanted to use open data formats. So Spark and Delta provided us with the performance, with the open source need, but it also ensured that we could put in governance in place. And in some cases, when we want to evolve the schema, we could evolve it quite in a controlled manner. And time travel is one bit that I think everyone likes.
When you're doing a daily tracker, it's great to be able to go back to a specific date and see what the data looked like at that date. So yeah, absolutely, that's one of the features that we
and I think I have spoken much more about Lakehouse, but it did give us a unified view of the data that both the reporting workloads and the analytical workloads could use. And of course, the performance and reliability of Delta that we got there. The third thing that we wanted to speak about, Databricks SQL, which we have touched upon before, was really the cherry on the cake, maybe, if you like cherries. But it was quite natural to transition for teams which were already using SQL workloads and which could transition much quicker into Databricks SQL. And the thing we noticed is that once we enabled those workspaces, then it encouraged a collaborative mindset between the teams. They could use their notebooks, they could share their queries, and serverless SQL, of course, abstracts the compute, so you don't have to worry about managing compute at all. And there are a few more things which we were excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the reasons that we get excited about a Lakehouse platform is that it gives you that solid foundation, an open and performant platform, and then you get to benefit from the ecosystem that you then belong to. So the work that Databricks is doing around live tables is something that we'll be looking at for future use cases. As a company that works a lot with first-party data, having access to clean rooms is a key functionality. And last but not least, we are Azure first. We use Azure Purview as our main data governance tools, but we're excited about the integration with Unity Catalog. So one of the key things when you think about embracing this new culture around data kind of engineering maturity is how do you leverage beyond the product that you're building? So it's great to do it for one product, but how do you scale that? And the model that we came up with, we call autonomy with guidance. So it revolves really around our maturity model. I've mentioned in the past, it's a set of capabilities and services that we can then use to understand what is needed for a new product, where do we have gaps. It allows us to also create design templates. I know a lot of my product managers might hate me for saying this, but even though they think their data is unique, within market research, we follow the same process, the same phases through every single product, right? So you can create your templates around that. You can design your architecture so that when new products come along, you're ready to go. We don't want to create too much governance, but we want to make sure that the quality is there. So we have quality gates in place, we have standards, we have guidelines. But really what we wanted to focus around was how do we decrease the engineering effort for every product moving forward, right? So how do we stop people from rebuilding the same thing over and over? We don't need 17 of the exact same transformations, just as build it once. So we really focus around tooling, around frameworks, around libraries, and we allow external teams to contribute. And the way that we set up our engineering teams is really around depending on the need of that specific product. So in cases where you're building a completely new enterprise capability, you might have a full Scrum team that is familiar with the stack that implements that, but they'll sit natively within the product engineering teams. In other cases where it's more of a direct usage of the capabilities that we've created, you might have just a liaison within the team that can work directly. But I think what's really important for us is that we support those different models because not every single team is going to be the same. And because we have to do this onboarding, because we have to be kind of these marketeers of the platform, we have to really think about how do we do the onboarding. I think it's something that EPAM has worked on.
Yeah, I mean, what complemented is the engineering DNA we come along with. I mean, sometimes really hard, but yes, we do bring in our engineering DNA. And our developers always think about patterns first, including our designers who think about reusable patterns and reusable components when we are building a platform, right? And this helped us quite a lot in the journey that we had with Kantar. And last but not the least, I think it's quite quite a bit of documentation that we had to spend.
I think we give about 20% to every single engineer and every single Scrum to make sure that this documentation stays up to date, that we create these quick starts guides, these demo projects. It really helps you kind of create that community around your new platform. So yeah, let's talk about where we are today. So as part of this product, we were able to deliver 49 out of the 102 capabilities that we had defined at a foundational level, which what that means is we've either implemented them directly for the brand now product, or we've created the enterprise designs to make sure that future products can leverage those directly. Through an exercise in measuring story points, which I will agree is not an exact science, but we've been able to determine that for similar products, for new data products, we can reduce the engineering effort by 20 to 30%. And I think that number is only going to go up as we build out the maturity of the capabilities, as we build out some more capabilities that might be needed in use cases that we haven't worked on yet. When you think about operational effort, there are areas where we're seeing huge wins. When it used to be, an operational person working on creating an extract of the data, then transforming it into our exotic proprietary software, and then having it analyzed by some of our data scientists and analysts, they can now directly go to the source, right? So that saves an insane amount of time. Today on the platform, we're analyzing over 300 million unique answers every single day. That number continues to grow as Brand Now keeps growing in the number of markets and categories that we support. As part of our MVP launch, we were given a target of 4 hours, which we are still hitting every single day. And I think in one of the latest demos I saw, one of the EPAM engineers was able to reduce a pipeline by 50%. So I think that number is going to keep going down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of laying the foundations and iteratively improving on it, right? Once you have a solid foundation, then you can start experimenting with it. You can refine it much more, and you will see the benefits come through in the due course of time.
Absolutely. So I think we wanted to kind of highlight some of the key takeaways. Some of them we might have discussed on stage already. Some of them we just want to highlight again. Some of them might be new. I'll take a couple, and then if you want to take a couple as well.
Maybe I'll start with my favorite, Maarten. My favorite is embracing the domain expertise, right? When EPAM came into Kantar, we probably, like, 70% of us didn't know what market research was all about. So we had to embrace the product knowledge that business teams had. We have had numerous amounts of deep dive sessions with the business users, asking them questions around what's the right way to bring in this data? What is the transformation you want to do? What sort of outcomes do you want to see from this? And we had like a couple of data summits which were big enough to bring in different teams together.
I think one of the things that we really learned is that sometimes these conversations can happen in small groups and it helps you kind of accelerate, but sometimes it does help when everyone is in the same room and talking about these problems together. So the data summits, I think, were quite an accelerator for us.
Yeah, and in one of the summits, there was a simple comment from the ops team, which Maarten and I were like just shocked to listen, and then we realized that there's a lot more work to do because of one small change. So it helps when you bring people together. It helps when you bring product teams and technology teams into one room at some point so that you can like learn from the overall process and better improve your designs or even your implementations. The second one, again, is a very tricky subject. Estimating the cost of building this platform or running these platforms is really, really tricky. We tried doing that, but it was more like a art than a science. So what we recommend to people is to try and do little POCs to estimate your workloads. Split them into important workloads. Try to work out with reflective data and see how much the cost is going to be. With doing some of the important, significant workloads, you can sort of extrapolate them to see how much it is going to cost you in the future for running the platform.
I think one of the spikes that we did that really helped us in the end was when we were building our common data models, the first version, and I might take the blame for some of this, I said to the team, don't worry about performance.
Oh, we have Spark.
Think about, just make sure it's like, it actually captures the domain expertise that's needed and make it readable. And then I think if we had kept going that way, finance would have knocked on my door and said, what's going on here? Because with Lakehouse and with Databricks and Spark and all this new technology, it's very easy to just use compute to get through an unoptimized problem. But it can help with these spikes to basically say like, okay, let's look at the data model again.
Yeah.
Now that we understand some more of the use cases, can we optimize it in a way? And I think that really saved, well,
I think the big topic was, do you normalize it? Do you denormalize it? What do you do? I mean, there's always not the right solution, one solution that fits all, right? You have to look at all your use cases and see where you want to denormalize certain parts of your data model, where you want to normalize certain part of your data model to make it more understandable or more queryable by reporting layers. But we did go through a very iterative approach on that path. Data governance framework, data quality rules. I think the key takeaway for me from this project on data governance and data quality is don't treat that as a siloed project. Data governance cannot be a siloed project in itself. It has to go hand in hand with the implementation, with the data platform, because any decisions you make can impact significantly what you're building on this line. So I think it was really a good thing that we started them in parallel and we sort of
absolutely. I think there were moments where when we were working through the governance model and we had already implemented specific areas on the data lake where we were like, hey, actually this is not going to work. And if we had waited after launch, that would have been a very expensive migration. So we were able to capture that early on. I think one of the key takeaways for me in the relationship with EPAM is really to like empower your product teams. By product, I mean like your product managers, but also your operational teams. When you work in a company that has a rich history, you have people that have rich expertise, but maybe not with the tools that you're building on, right? Yes. So don't discount that. Make sure that you work with them, understand the process, understand their way of thinking, why did they come to a specific solution, and see if you can leverage that for some of the decisions you're making today. The common data model, I think—
It's a favorite topic, I think.
I could keep talking about the common data model. I know we're getting closely to the end of the time, so I'll just say, I think it's a key problem that needs to be solved when you think about leveraging something like Lakehouse. Technology is just a Band-Aid. It doesn't fix all your problems. I think sometimes the business might think like, oh, we'll just use whatever the latest technology. We'll use AI, I'm just going to say it. And it's going to solve all my problems. That's not the case, right? Really making sure that the right data is going in, or at least there is a good model that helps you understand what version of truth you're looking at. And then last but not least, this is actually my personal favorite, which is the maturity roadmaps, which I use almost on a daily basis to understand what challenges do we have, where do we need to focus our energy. When you're speaking with product teams, it can help you understand like, hey, the product you're looking to build, instant fit with the new platform. Yep. Or it might take a little bit longer as we work through our maturity. So I think this has been super helpful for us to really kind of standardize our development. I think that's all we had for today. We do want to leave time for any questions that you might have. Just so you know, we can't go into like very detailed implementations because this is being recorded and I don't want to give away any company secrets or get my PR team mad at me. So, but thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.